Good morning, Munising. Casey Ford live inside the Jaminat Studios and Gallery Coffee for Coffee with Casey on AM 1400, 97.7 WQXO. Also on SoundCloud, Spotify, the Rome Media Facebook page, and the Rome Media YouTube page. It is a great Friday. Even though it's a little bit windy, a little bit rainy, it actually feels like a football Friday for the first time this year. And what I mean by that, it's going to be mid 40s. It's going to be muddy. Last year at this time, actually, it was the last week a year ago at this time, we had snow in Brimley. We had snow that was happening in Rudyard. We're not expecting any of the snow this evening, but it's going to be cold. It's going to be a little bit wet. It's going to be here, Eastern UP football, and it's going to be in Brimley tonight. Charlie Nebel, Cameron Nebel will be on the call as the Munising Mustangs look to get to that 7th win on the season. Feel free, give us a comment. You can go to the Rome Media Facebook page, leave a comment. We'll read them on air, but there's so much I want to talk about when it comes to bracketology right now. To set the show a little bit today, Matt Zika from the National Weather Service is going to join us in about 10 minutes right here on AM 1400, 97.7 WQXO. We're going to talk about the weather. And normally we have that big October snowstorm right around this time, my birthday, which is next week. We normally get around October 14th to 29th. We seem like we always get that snowstorm. Hasn't happened yet. We've had a very, very, very light frost early on it was about Tuesday of this week. We had a very, 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 very light frost, but haven't even really had that first full-on frost yet here in the Upper Peninsula. We're going to talk about that and talk about how unusual that is. And I don't even see snow in the forecast coming up, which is weird as we head into deer season. And obviously opening day for rifle season is November 15th. So we'll talk to Matt Zika about that. We got the hunting, we got the football, and we have the weather and what that means for plants as we go into next spring. Plants that used to be frozen by now, not frozen yet. So we'll talk to Matt Zika about that. Tomorrow at the American Legion, we have the Pete Heyrman Scholarship Fundraiser. It's between 4 and 8 o'clock. We'll have Pete Heyrman on our airwaves today. Now, I had to pre-tape this interview, as many of you know about the Pete's condition. So we'll talk to Pete Heyrman today about the fundraiser between 4 and 8 o'clock and his involvement. And seriously, he is super involved with getting these prizes for you to potentially own for the Pete Heyrman Scholarship Award and the fundraiser that takes place tomorrow between 4 and 8 o'clock at the American Legion. Now, I did say this was going to be a football Friday. Good morning, David, listening down in Indiana. I hope it's a lot warmer there than the 44, 43 degrees that we have here in the Upper Peninsula. I'm going to start where it matters most because that's our listening area. The Munising Mustangs, 5-1 in conference, 6-2 overall. Must-win game. I say it's a must-win because if they lose this game, that would really hurt them in the playoff points. So right now, Munising looking to have a home game, depending on what all happens this week. There is a good possibility Munising could have a home game next Friday or Saturday afternoon. I hope it's Friday night because football belongs on Friday night when it comes to high school football. But Munising playing Brimley tonight. The other game that's worth noting, and this could give Munising the all-out title in the conference. You have the Rudyard Bulldogs taking on the Pickford Panthers. That game should be on EUP tonight. I did not confirm that with them. I just assume it's a big game. It will be on EUP. But the Newberry Indians are also in action tonight as they take on Rogers City. That is going to be a big matchup for the Newberry Indians. Lots of playoff implications and playoff points. Rudyard 6-2, 4-2 in conference. Newberry 6-2, 5-2 in conference. Pickford 5-1 in conference. They had that forfeit loss to the Superior Central Cougars, 7-1 overall. Munising 5-1 in conference, 6-2 overall. So it is a big weekend for Newberry. It's a big weekend for Munising. When you look at the Newberry Indians taking on Rogers City Rogers City 8-0. Must win for the Newberry Indians this week, and that will help them in their playoff points. If they don't get blown out, kind of like what Munising and Sutton's Bay was, if they don't get blown out, they should be in the playoffs. But Rogers City, super good, 8-0 heading in to tonight's game. So lots of big games on the docket tonight. 8-man football, Rudyard, Pickford, that could decide if Munising gets all out first place, or if Munising falls to Rudyard, or if Munising falls to Brimley, Munising falls to Brimley, then Pickford should win it outright if Pickford, in fact, defeats the Rudyard Bulldogs. Otherwise, you have like a mass confusion of a bunch of 5-2 teams in the Great Lakes 8-man East Conference. Other big games taking place tonight. This is 11-man football. I'm super geeked about this. This will be one of the best games in the conference and of the season tonight. You have 7-1 Negaunee versus 7-1 Westwood Patriots. Both teams 4-1 in conference. Calumet leads that right now at 4-1 because of the tiebreakers and things like that. But each team, Negaunee and Westwood, trying to get a share of that conference title. That is taking place tonight. I don't see anything else in that conference. And then in the Great Northern Conference tonight, you have Marquette against Petoskey. Big game. Marquette's going to need some help in the Great Lakes North region, and they could get that help. You have a Kingsford team taking on a Menominee team. It used to be the Battle of the Hofers. That's not the case anymore. But Kingsford, Menominee, if Menominee wins, they will win the GNC outright. Menominee is 5-3. All 3 losses have come against Wisconsin teams. They are 3-0 in conference. The Marquette Redmond 3-1 in conference, 6-2 overall. Marquette's only loss was to Menominee in conference, as Marquette defeated Kingsford earlier this year. What that means, all bracketology wise, and this is all going to change after today anyway. But going with Snooze to Lose, I follow him on Twitter. Big fan of what we do here at Rome Media and WQXO. He has the mapatology that breaks down Division 8, Region 1, Region 2, Region 3, Region 4. If the playoffs were to start today, and I feel like this is like a NFL, Major League Baseball, until you're actually eliminated, you're still in it kind of deal. If the playoffs were to start today before 8-man football, Munising would have a home game against Ontonagon, according to this mapatology. Newberry would take on Rudyard. Both teams are 6-2. Now, remember, I just talked about Newberry plays Rogers City, 8-0 Rogers City. Rudyard plays Pickford. You know the seedings are going to change a little bit for that, but Munising is going to be keeping an eye on that. Region 2 in Division 1, 8-man football, Sutton's Bay and Pickford. Those are heavyweights, folks. If you haven't seen Pickford play, if you haven't seen Sutton's Bay play, Sutton's Bay gave Munising firsthand what was going to happen here in Mustang Stadium a couple of weeks back at a 2:00 game here at Mustang Stadium. Sutton's Bay, really good. Rogers City takes on Indian River Inland Lakes. Munising took on them in the playoffs last year in that first round, which Munising kind of got hosed a little bit because of COVID forfeits and people not wanting to play. They thought Munising was going to have a home game, and then they had to go on the road to Indian River Inland Lakes, who actually went pretty far in the playoffs and wanted to take on Pickford before Pickford had to forfeit to Indian River Inland Lakes because of COVID. Region 3 doesn't involve anybody in the Upper Peninsula area, but you'd have to keep an eye on them later. In Region 4, also no one in the Upper Peninsula area that we have to make note of right now. So like I said, huge high school football implications this week. None bigger for Pickford and Rudyard and Newberry. Those 2 games right there, the top of them. Munising in a must-win against Brimley if they want to for sure have at least a share of the conference title, or maybe even win it outright depending on help. So that is your high school football breakdown right here on AM 1400, 97.7 WQXO. Believe it is a must win for Rudyard to make the playoffs as well. So this is a must win for the Rudyard Bulldogs as we enter week 9 and what could be a very sloppy week 9 affair in the Eastern Upper Peninsula, which I kind of consider Munising part of the Eastern UP. Some people say it's Newberry. It is what it is. We're always on an island. You're watching Coffee with Casey on YouTube and on our Rome Media Facebook page and listening on AM 1400, 97.7 WQXO. Matt Zika will join us in just a little bit. Something else I want to talk about today, and I know Bryce will get to this two-shot here in just a minute, but it's the TV6 Canathon. We are the home of the Canathon for TV6. We have taken this over, which was at the Newberry News. Obviously, we know, or not Newberry, the Munising News. Just talking about Newberry. That's why Newberry's on my mind. It used to be at the Munising News. We have taken it over here at Gallery Coffee Company inside the Jamadot Studios. And Bryce, if you go, yes, we have cans right in front of us right now. Now, we would like to get like my table here, the guest table behind here, all filled with cans. You can bring a canned good to Gallery Coffee Company between the business hours Tuesday through Saturday, 8 until 2 o'clock. We'd love to stack your cans on the stage, make this all nice and pretty and big, and show the people of TV6 how grateful Elgin County is to the food pantries and restocking the food pantry. So if you have a non-perishable food item, please bring them in to Gallery Coffee Company, and we will put it on our set and make the set look nice and beautiful when it comes to the TV6 Canathon. We're open Tuesday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. And you can give it to David. You can give it to me. If you see Bryce, give it to Bryce. I see Anna, Tom, give it to them. But make sure it's at Gallery Coffee Company, and we'll put it on stage and make it look nice and beautiful. Like, who doesn't like corned beef hash? I mean, that's just one of the nice delicacies in a can. It's so good. Goes great with eggs on a Saturday, Sunday morning. Who doesn't like corned beef hash? Absolutely, mwah, one of my favorites. So many things you can do with that. So I'll put it on a sandwich too. Yes. Get some bread. Put that corned beef on a sandwich. Anyway, we're going to take this time out. When we come back, we're going to talk to Matt Zika from the National Weather Service, and we're going to talk about this lack of weather we've had so far this year. You're watching and listening to Coffee with Casey on AM 1400, 97.7 WQXO, also on SoundCloud, Spotify, the Rome Media Facebook page, and on YouTube.
Elgin County Communities That Care is a local organization that offers preventative programming addressing teen pregnancy, violence, delinquency, school dropout, substance abuse, depression, and suicide. We are looking for members in our community to help with many of these programs and fundraisers we offer. If you would like to get involved, please contact us at elgerctc.org. Elgin County United and Thriving, promoting a safe, healthy, and prosperous environment for all youth and adults.
Hutphin's Health Mart welcomes you. Your hometown pharmacy is always here for you. Customer service comes first in all we do. You're gonna find that we love serving you at Hutphin's Health Mart. Service is still our best medicine.
Hutphin Health Mart has been a trusted source to handle your prescriptions for over 80 years. They're always ready to help in a personal way with their experienced and well-trained pharmacy staff. Family-owned and operated. Just people serving people. 119 Elm Avenue in beautiful downtown Munising, with convenient parking at the front or rear entrance.
At Hutphin's Health Mart, service is still our best medicine.
Fall is here, and that means temperatures are dropping. Is your propane tank ready for winter this year? Call Superior Land Gas, because they've been trusted for over 100 years, and this is what they do. Superior Land Gas provides propane for appliances, from your outdoor grill to a 1,000-gallon commercial tank. They have the resources and training for heating your home or office. Call Superior Land Gas in Wetmore to switch or get filled up today at 387-4660.
Ashley Home Store's lowest prices of the season are here. We're rolling out our lowest prices of the season on items throughout the store and online. Right now, shop beds up to 40% off and sofas starting as low as $299. Or buy today and pay 0% interest for 72 months with no minimum purchase. Hurry in or visit ashleyhomestore.com to shop and save today. Ashley Home Store. This is home. Online availability may vary. Some exclusions apply. See store or ashleyhomestore.com for details.
Back on Coffee with Casey, AM 1400, 97.7 WQXO inside the Jamadot studios at Gallery Coffee Company. We get to talk in person to one of my favorite guests, and we had him on a couple times last year. And I know he's a Penn State guy. He's a Steeler guy. He likes the college game. And we were just kind of talking about how Penn State laid an egg against against Iowa. Purdue then beat Iowa last week. But, just a weird game when it came to Penn State, Iowa. And I didn't expect Iowa to lay down to Purdue last week. I thought they would have won that one in their sleep. But
yeah, it was tough to watch. And the injuries that happened so early.
They had a 17-3 lead at halftime or in the second half. I'm still mad about that game.
I am too.
Matt Zika from the National Weather Service joins us right here on Coffee with Casey, AM 1400, 97.7 WQXO. Bryce Bird says boiler up. he is a Purdue fan, and I understand that, but still wasn't happy with last week when it came to college football. Just a lot of upsets and just things that weird taking place in college football. We have you on not talk about football, but talk about the weather. And with the National Weather Service, I happened to notice yesterday because my son is like me. He's like obsessed with the weather. He likes looking at radars, and he's telling me where it's snowing and where it's raining. And every morning he zooms out and he goes over to like Sweden and Finland. He's like, "Look, Daddy, big snow." And I'm like, "Yes, I understand that." I happened to see last night snowing in Ishpeming, snowflakes at least. It was snowing in Scandia this morning. I know that's going to be a colder weekend, but when I look at the weather, I look at next weekend, it's like mid-50s again. So when is this quote-unquote snow going to hit the Upper Peninsula? Because I'm looking at long-term forecasts. I don't really see anything like through like deer season right now.
Yeah, looking out in the future, there's really not a ton or a big signal to say we're going to flip a switch and get a really snowy pattern. I mean, if we remember back to last October
14th, I believe it snowed.
Yep.
And then we were in the lake on November 4th, I believe, because it was back to like 60 degrees in November.
Yeah, it was very unusual. I mean, we at our office on the hill in Nagani, we had 26 inches of snow last October, which ended up being almost a third of our whole
right. Which was super weird because, I mean, you've lived in the Upper Peninsula for a very long time. I've lived up here for 15 years or close to 15 years now. It always seems like we get that October snowfall between the 15th and the 29th. It always seems like that first high school playoff football game is played with some kind of snowflakes. And we haven't seen that. What do you attribute to? Is it that global warming that people, and I know people joke about that. Oh, yeah, where's that global warming you're talking about when you got 30 inches of snow? But is it that global warming? Is this the new norm when it comes to the weather? Are we going to have a lot warmer Octobers than compared to the yesteryear?
Well, I won't say it's completely the new norm. If you go back and look over the last 20 years, 18 of the last 20 Septembers across the UP, the temperatures have averaged above normal. 15 of the last Octobers, the temperatures have been above normal. And so if you're looking at, if it's a climate shift or whatever you want to call it, there's no doubt that our summers are hanging on longer into the fall season. So, I mean, our growing seasons are longer. I mean, people are still harvesting tomatoes in downtown Marquette.
I saw that. They're actually doing it in Chatham and Eben too, because I saw people, hey, by the way, we still got tomatoes if you want them. And yes. So how does that affect plants? Because normally plants are used to being froze by this point, or at least getting our first freeze. And yet they're still kind of growing and producing. So what's the long-term effect when it comes to growing in plants when it comes to that thing?
Well, the way we look at it, I mean, climatologically, usually by the latter part of September is when most areas would typically see their first frost. Here we are.
Today's the 22nd of October.
And unless you live well inland from the lake, it clearly hasn't got down below freezing yet. They'll have a couple of opportunities this weekend, but still it doesn't look likely until maybe Halloween weekend where most areas will fall below freezing for their morning lows. So, it's unusual. As far as how plants grow, obviously you reach a point in the season where the sun angle gets low, and things aren't.
But the ground's warm.
The ground is, yes,
super warm. Yep. Matt Zika joins us right here. Coffee with Casey, AM 1400, 97.7 WQXO. Also on SoundCloud, Spotify, their own media Facebook page, and on YouTube page. So you see what's taking place this weekend. How much do you get blamed for, like here in Munising, for instance, this morning? Sun was out, it was raining. How much do you get blamed for the sun being out and it raining outside?
Well, I don't know if I get blamed for that a lot, but get blamed for a lot of other things.
The snowstorms for sure.
Snowstorms for sure, and how I can be right only 50% of the time and still have a job. That
wait, hang on. Let's talk about that. How often are you right? Are you right more than 50% of the time?
Oh, 100%. Yes. Yeah, I've never issued a bad forecast.
Okay.
So, sometimes the results don't end up exactly how I expected them to come out.
Right.
But people don't remember when we say it's going to be sunny and 72 degrees outside.
Because they're outside. They're not paying attention to what
they're enjoying.
The
weather, it's what it was expected. But when you get 10 inches of snow and it's like, oh, they only said we were going to get 2 inches, then they call you out on it.
Let me tell you a quick story about the weather and that exact scenario. So it's 2007. It's my first Christmas up here. I planned on flying home to Grand Rapids. So I was going to go from Marquette to Chicago into Grand Rapids. They had called for a winter storm warning. It's going to hit. The temperature's going to drop. It's going to go from 44 to like 28, just like that. We're going to have like 2 feet of snow or more. And nothing happened. All my flights got canceled. I was able to rent a rental car because you could do that back in those days. They weren't COVID protocol, but I was able to rent a car. And then I was in the airport, I want to say for like 6 hours before everything finally got canceled. Because once you miss your connecting flight, it's hard. It doesn't matter if you're going to Detroit, Chicago, but there's not like everything flies into Grand Rapids and you worry about seats and all that other stuff. So I was able to rent a car and drive home and had no issues whatsoever. I flew back from Grand Rapids to Chicago, back to Marquette. And that huge snowstorm that we were going to get, like 2, maybe 3 inches on the ground. What are some of the things that cause, I don't want to say a misdiagnosis, but a misread in the weather like that? Because obviously you assume the weather is going to drop because you're looking at the radars and looking at patterns. But what are some of the conditions and where the forecast is just wrong in that instance?
Well, in this case, the science is really good with us diagnosing how the atmosphere is working. You have to understand, how large the atmosphere is. And, there's only so many sampling points where you're actually getting true measurements of data or observation points within the atmosphere, which then all that data goes into the myriad of computer models that simulate how the atmosphere is working. And that's all they are. They are models, they're projections, and people say, well, how could you be wrong so many times and still have a job? Look at people trying to forecast how football games are going to go and things like that. It's, I'm not saying.
Why do you got to hit me right here, Matt? Here.
I'm not saying they go hand in hand, but there's a lot of variables involved with the way the atmosphere works. And when you're talking about big storms spinning up, a difference of 10 miles on the center of where the low pressure is may have a huge impact on who gets the big snow and who doesn't. Here in the wintertime and the fall with the lake effect snow, a slight variation in the wind direction determines if Autrain's going to get pummeled by the big snow. Is it going to be?
There's a huge difference between Autrain and Munising or Autrain and Scandia, because it seems like those are higher snow belts or where the snow always hits. Where Marquette, it doesn't matter if it's, in my opinion, spring, summer, or winter. It seems like there's like a shield around Marquette. It seems like all of this big weather patterns, doesn't matter if it's thunderstorm or snowstorm, starts coming to Marquette, and then there's like a shield and nothing. Or like they get, very minimal snow. When did we finally hit the 100-inch mark here in Munising last year for snow?
It was very late.
I
in
know,
the
like
season.
mid-March, we were
Yeah.
still at like 95 inches. Super low snow totals last year.
Yeah, and even downtown like Marquette, right on the lakeshore, less than 40 inches last year. So I mean, it was a anomalous low snow year, near record warm, and least amount of snow across the UP almost as a whole.
We'll talk about more about that in a minute. If you have any questions, comments for Matt Zika from the National Weather Service, you can leave them on our Rome Media Facebook page, and then we will read them to Mr. Zika. Matt, I looked at forecast, and we'll talk about the European and all that other stuff compared to ours and the projections and things like that. But I think I read it was going to be an El Nino versus La Nina, and I thought it was going to be a La Nina year. That means wetter snow, correct? What is La Nina?
Well, La Nina is one of the larger patterns where actually, believe it or not, the water temperatures in the equatorial Pacific Ocean actually cause different atmospheric interactions and flow patterns to develop. And La Nina is when the water temperatures actually are below normal in the equatorial Pacific. And in most of those winters, especially the stronger La Nina years, there are some correlations that we can pick up and detect across the United States. Directly correlating La Nina to weather across upper Michigan, it can go either way. There's no direct correlation. The only correlation is when we have the flip side,
Right.
El Nino, when the water temperatures are well above normal in the Pacific Ocean and the equatorial Pacific. Strong El Ninos almost always lead to well above normal temperatures and
Like last year.
Yeah, but last year, ironically, was a La Nina
Really?
winter. So,
Okay, I did
Yep.
not know that.
Yep.
So I was wrong, but is it? I don't ever remember hearing any of this stuff until about the age of like 10 to 12.
Mhm.
Is it an either or now? Like it's either going to be El Nino or La Nina. Like every year it's going to be something. Is that correct?
No, we can go into periods of time where we're in neutral conditions. And honestly, if you're in a weak El Nino or a weak La Nina phase where the departures of the water temperatures aren't that great from normal, I mean, it almost equals out to being in a neutral pattern. And then, I mean, it really comes down to more short-term atmospheric drivers that we can look at and just see. The atmosphere sometimes gets locked into patterns, and we've been locked into a very mild pattern. You go back to basically last winter through the spring, and the summer was pretty close.
We're a
to
little
normal.
above average right now, correct? I mean, it's not like a lot above average, but it's a little above average.
Right now, if you average temperatures from January 1st through October 20th, we're in the top 5 warmest years for here in the UP.
Of course, we are.
October so far, we're averaging 10 degrees above the typical October temperature up to this point in the month. So, I mean, it has been a very warm year. And, not to bring up is the climate changing, but 8 of our top 10 warmest years have occurred since the year 2000 here in the UP. I mean, the data is there. You can go and you look. And I think you talk to most folks, and they would suggest that, yes, it is warmer now than maybe it was back in the 70s.
Well,
those times.
I remember 2012, for instance, my daughter was supposed to have her first Halloween costume party at school, and we got 2 feet of snow. I was working at Fry Chevrolet at that point when they were open, and I had to drive in. I actually drove to downtown Gwynn I shouldn't have been driving, but I had to drive to downtown Gwynn to drop my kid off at one of his friend's house because school was obviously canceled. We didn't have daycare at that point. And then I drove from downtown Gwynn in a 2006 Ford Fusion, not even 4-wheel drive or anything like that, into Fry Chevy. It might have been my Montego, I forget, but a little bit bigger of a car. And then it kind of seemed like we didn't really get a big snowstorm after that. So that was 2012. I know 2018-ish, we had some kind of a snowstorm as well.
Yep.
When it says it's going to be wetter, I guess, does that mean it's going to be a longer winter? I don't care about the fill and seeing a shadow and all that other stuff, but do you see like winter like hanging on through like April at this point?
Well, when we talked about the seasonal shifts, one of the other things, well, it's not as direct of a signal. If you look at our Aprils and Mays over the last 20 years, too,
right.
More than half of them, those temperatures actually have averaged below what their normal is. So, I mean, well, it's not as obvious as like we're seeing in the fall where the summer's hanging on longer. There are some trends to where the winters hangs on a little bit longer into the early spring season. So the Aprils and the Mays. And if we think back over the last few years, there's been some big snows.
I
in the
remember
month of
selling
April.
cars. I forget if it was 2017 or 2018. We had to unbury the cars at Fox Nagani.
Mhm.
And I remember Menominee and the YMCA got like 19 or not 19, like 96 some inches or something that year because they got that Green Bay snow. And we got snow, but we didn't get like the 96 inches kind of snow. And that was in April. We're like, just keep punching us. Like that one hurt. When it comes to forecasts, and you talked about looking at all this, I guess, what's the difference between a forecast that you're looking at in United States forecast compared to like the European forecast? Because it seems like the European ones always seem like we're going to get a lot more snow than what we actually do, or they predict snow for this period of time. So what's the difference between the forecast between the United States and the European models?
Well, there's lots of details, and actually a lot of countries run their own computer weather models. The Canadians run one. The European model is out there. The GFS system, which is the American model. And at the end of the day, it really gets down to the microphysics and the different convective parameterization schemes and things like that are embedded in the model. And that's where all these variables come into play. And, just a slight interpretation or, a variable being interpreted a little bit different causes the output from those models to be different. Now, most of the time, you're going to be honed in on a fairly common solution, but there are instances, especially if you're forecasting storms that move up the East Coast, because a small shift, a 10-mile shift or whatever, can make huge impacts.
Like social media, I always say everyone on social media tries to do what I do and tries to be a broadcaster, or what Bryce does and tries to be a journalist. I feel like in the wintertime, everyone is a meteorologist, and we can hear the same forecast and come up with two different conclusions. And then you start, 2 weeks out, we're going to get this. And 2 weeks out, we're going to get that. When it's the National Weather Service, whether it's the National Weather Service, TV6, like a weather bug or underground weather, I guess, what's the difference between all the organizations trying to predict what's going to happen with the weather? And the underground weather people seem to love, by the way. I don't know anything about it, but I guess their forecasts have been a lot different than what the NWS has been.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to forecasting the weather, and realize at our office, we have multiple meteorologists and forecasters working there. Every day they come in, they sit down at their computer workstation, and they diagnose what's happening in the atmosphere. They look at all the computer model data. Well, that's just one individual who is interpreting based off of what they're looking at and they're seeing, and then they come up with a forecast from there. The next person may come into the office and look over that same data and have a slightly different interpretation as to what is going to happen. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
It's just that's how they're looking at the data that's available at their fingertips. And thus it can lead to different people having different ideas. That's what's going to happen with the weather. But the worst is when people go in and since all the computer model data is available online, they'll pull out a snowfall forecast chart that shows the potential amount of snow from today through the next 384 hours in the future. And it might show 98 inches for us here in Munising. And at the end of the day, you're never going to realize that amount of snow on the ground.
One thing I absolutely love is when everybody becomes a meteorologist and they're like, well, I just looked at the radar and it's going to go like this. And I was just like, oh yeah, because we don't worry about wind change or anything here in the Upper Peninsula. We're absolutely going to get what you're talking about because you're in that office every single day looking at the forecast and the barometers and all that stuff. And when I hear, was it northwest wind here in Munising, I get scared.
Yeah,
because I feel like that means we're going to get dumped on. When I hear northwest wind, I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are some of the trigger points that people can listen for? Like I picked up northwest wind, winter, not good for Munising. What are some of the things that people can be paying attention to, whether we're going to get a big snowstorm or not?
The biggest thing is, obviously we're talking about very cold air moving across the lake. Right now we're right at that threshold where there's cold enough air aloft moving over the lake. The water temperature is still in the 50s.
Right.
The air, a couple thousand feet above us is several degrees below freezing. And that temperature difference is enough to generate these lake effect rain bands. Although you go just a little bit further inland and it is mixed with a little slush and
Not here
snow.
yet that I've
No,
seen.
not here.
I don't want to talk about that snow word yet. Not,
Not
yet. It can be fine. Snow in Scandia is fine. Snow in Ishpeming, fine. Did you see any snow at the National Weather Service yesterday?
There were yesterday evening. We did have a few, so
Okay.
just a trace amount of.
Once again, I was
snowflakes.
watching the radar and
Mhm.
trying to depict what's going to happen
Mhm.
because I'm a expert meteorologist because I have a phone and go, oh look,
look, there it is. It's snowing, or it's shaded in white on the radar map, so it must be
it's
snowing.
blue. It's blue. Matt Zika from the National Weather Service joins us right here. Coffee with Casey, AM 1400, 97.7 WQXO. You heard me talking opening segment about Friday night football, things like that, and the big games with Newberry and Pickford and Rudyard. I guess, are there going to be any really big problem areas for high school football on a Friday night, or is it just going to be kind of like the lake effect rain that we talked about and we've seen so far here in Munising on this Friday?
It's mainly going to be that, just the on and off lake effect rain showers coming mainly for the areas east of Marquette. Although some of the highland areas, I won't be surprised at the Westwood Nagani game if they have a couple of snow flurries this evening. But the more persistent rain showers will be basically east of Marquette. So any place basically north of M28, east of Marquette will be the zone. And I'm not sure if there's any games that are going to fall within
Like I
that
said,
corridor.
Munising's in Brimley, and then Superior Central is playing Rapid River tonight. So
Yeah, that won't be an issue.
No, that
down
won't be
there.
an issue. But just that EUP, and then I don't know where that Newberry game's actually at, where they're playing Rogers City. So I'm not going to even comment on that.
But this will be the first Friday night football games of the season where it actually is going to feel like,
and the colors, and there's
fall
whatever
weather.
color are left. But yes, so
the temperatures will be in the 30s, and it'll feel fall-like.
Matt, thank you for making the drive down and joining us on Coffee with Casey this morning. Matt Zika from the National Weather Service. Please, if you want any food, the coffee is right there. Thank you for coming down and joining us this morning. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks so much, and look forward to being on again to chat some more.
Absolutely. Matt Zika from the National Weather Service joins us right here on Coffee with Casey, AM 1400, 97.7 WQXO. I'll put this out right now. Matt and I will not be friends on a Saturday in a couple weeks when Michigan takes on Penn State. So that one is at the Big House, by the way. But I'm hoping Michigan's still undefeated.
It's in
is
State
it
College.
It is in State College? I thought we played there last
No,
year.
because we beat you at the Big House last year.
All right, so Harbaugh on the road in State College. I just remember the last time we went to State College. I think it was the last time. It was not. I think Charbonneau was still our running back. It was not fun. Anyway, I digress. But Michigan plays Northwestern tomorrow, plays Michigan State, and then I think we play Penn State. Yeah, I said we. I wear the same clothes every single Saturday because we're undefeated and I do my part. Matt Zika, National Weather Service, joins us right here. Coffee with Casey, AM 1400, 97.7 WQXO. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk to Pete Heyrman about the scholarship and the fundraiser that's taking place at the American Legion tomorrow between 4 and 8. It's the Pete Heyrman Awards and the scholarship. So we're going to talk about that with Pete Heyrman right after this. You've been watching Coffee with Casey on the Rome Media Facebook page and on YouTube, and listening on AM 1400, 97.7 WQXO Munising.
Ben Landshut's & Sons now has winter hours. Get the freshest whitefish from the cleanest lake in the world Thursdays from 10 until 5, Fridays 10 until 5, and Saturdays 10 until 3. While you're there, pick up some of that world-famous Ben Landshut's fish dip. Or why not try some of that whitefish sausage, garlic sausage, or Cajun sausage? That maple glazed salmon is always a fan favorite as well. Ben Landshut's & Sons, Thursday and Friday from 10 until 5, Saturdays from 10 until 3.
Tracy's Restaurant is reimagined for the season. Come experience some Japanese flair, ramen bowls for $15, corned beef egg rolls for $4.50, handcrafted sushi, and hot sake. Plus, a pound of chicken wings with chef-crafted sauces for just $10. Don't worry, our staples are still there. The cheese curds, the Brussels sprouts, and that steak you love. Call 387-8000 for reservations. Tracy's at Roman in Munising.
Need breakfast in a pinch? A sweet treat to help you continue through the day? What about a technically correct way to tell others you're eating your vegetables? Whatever your reason, Gallery Coffee's new selection of pastries are now available. Enjoy muffins, eclairs, fritters, and even zucchini bread, all pairing well with your favorite hot coffee or iced drink. Check out your new selection of pastries now at Gallery Coffee Company, located on the corner of Elm and Superior in downtown Munising.
Hey, did you get the new chicken Uber pasty from Miner's Pasties yet?
No, I didn't. Does it have the taters?
Yep,
Does it have the rutabaga?
of course.
Does it have the onions and the carrots?
Yep, those two. It's a true Uber pasty from Miner's with all the right fillings and that perfect flaky crust.
That sounds great. How do I get one?
The same as always down at Miner's Pasties, open 7 days a week from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at 201 West Munising Avenue in Munising.
This is the Ashley Home Store in Marquette and Escanaba Munising Minute, powered by Rome Media. An Upper Peninsula man has pled guilty to stealing more than $100,000 worth of timber from state forest lands. Raymond Vitort from Stevenson and owner of R&J Logging was facing 1 count of trespassing with damage resulting more than $20,000 worth to state lands, 1 count of larceny, and 1 count of malicious destruction of trees. Vitort had a contract for timber harvest on state lands, but overmarked and overharvested the area resulting in the theft. Vitort will pay $50,000 worth of restitution by December 10th and be prohibited from bidding on DNR contracts again as part of the plea deal for the trespassing resulting in damage charge. The Biden administration announced that it plans to regulate and accelerate the cleanup of PFAS substances. PFAS was commonly found in firefighters' foam to help choke out fires, but is also considered a forever chemical, meaning it isn't breaking down naturally in the environment. PFAS has been found in multiple water sources across the UP and in other places in the United States, most notably around old military bases. So in the UP, PFAS is more commonly found in areas like Kinross and Sawyer. The Munising Minute is brought to you by Ashley Home Store in Marquette and Escanaba, where the lowest prices of the season sale is on now. Bedrooms and dining rooms are up to 40% off. Plus, we have over 200 mattresses in stock and experienced interior design experts to help you. Local, family-owned Ashley Home Store in Marquette and Escanaba. For Rome Media, I am Bryce Burge.
Ashley Home Store's lowest prices of the season are here. We're rolling out our lowest prices of the season on items throughout the store and online. Right now, shop beds up to 40% off and sofas starting as low as $299. Or buy today and pay 0% interest for 72 months with no minimum purchase. Hurry in or visit ashleyhomestore.com to shop and save today. Ashley Home Store. This is home. Online availability may vary. Some exclusions apply. See store or ashleyhomestore.com for details.
And now, back to Coffee with Casey on AM 1400 and 97.7 WQXO.
Welcome back to Coffee with Casey, AM 1400, 97.7 WQXO. Also on SoundCloud, Spotify, and the Rome Media Facebook page. We're here with Pete Heyrman, who has a benefit at the American Legion between 4 and 8 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. That is Saturday. And the Pete Heyrman Scholarship has been in and around the Munising area for quite some time, and Pete is super involved in this scholarship. So, Pete, talk about the scholarship and how it came to fruition.
An award was started for me my senior year of football, Munising Mustangs football. I was the student assistant for my 4 years of high school, and at the end of it, I didn't have any statistics to share or whatever, leave a legacy, I guess. And so my teammates created an award in my name, the Peter Heyrman Senior Football Award, and it's given every year to a varsity player, a senior on the varsity team. And it's a plaque that the winner's name is engraved on each year, and that was the extent of it, which was huge for me. I appreciated it, but I wanted to do more with it, so I decided that adding a scholarship to it would have a little more importance to it, since it would help the winner with their future endeavors. It's not so much a scholarship for going to college. I mean, it can be used for that, but it's basically a scholarship that can be used to start their life after high school, whether it be a career or military or college.
Pete Heyrman joins us right here. Coffee with Casey, AM 1400, 97.7 WQXO, also on SoundCloud and Spotify and the Rome Media Facebook page. I know it's a lot of hard work that you put into this every single year. Let's talk about some of the raffle items that are going to be taking place tomorrow between 4 and 8 o'clock at the American Legion.
Firearms, for one, I have 7 firearms. I have custom pistols and Mustang-colored pistols that are built for my scholarship program. Quilts and hand-built furniture, you name it, I have it, really. I spent the last 12 months pretty much trying to get it ready. Well, actually spent 2 years now because we missed a year with COVID, so I didn't gather and Raffle Items and contact and do local businesses that have all donated. So any business that you know of in town in Munising, they've donated. So they're gift certificates for their businesses. So every business pretty much in town donated them. So that pretty much tells you what I have.
Pete, you talk about the support from the locals and the local businesses. Obviously, you talked about it. The last 2 years, you have been gathering things. How tough was it to get raffle items for this Saturday, knowing what the world has been through and what local businesses have been through during this COVID year and rebounding from COVID and the slow season?
Well, the local businesses have been really good. They donated. I've had to call a number of times just trying to get a hold of the owner and manager, but anytime I have, pretty much every business in town is donated regardless of COVID. So the town, Munising, has been very supportive of my cause, and so it actually hasn't been that tough considering what everybody's been going through. Everybody's been pretty generous in years past. Well, I should say very generous in years past. And that continued again this year, even through their struggles to stay open with COVID. They made sure to support me.
Pete Heyrman joins us right here, Coffee with Casey, AM 1400, 97.7 WQXO, also on SoundCloud, Spotify, the YouTube page, and the Rome Media Facebook page. Let's talk about you a little bit. Class of 95, you sit here, you're working the phones, you're trying to make sure people know about this fundraiser that takes place on Saturday between 4 and 8 o'clock at the American Legion for your scholarship. Talk about you right now. Where are you at health-wise? What are some of your struggles that you have?
Well, I'm doing pretty good. The only problem I have is on the ventilator, so trying to talk is kind of tough. So some days it's a little tougher than others to talk on the phone, especially after making 20, 30, 40, even 50 sometimes calls or more a day. It gets a little wore out, so I'm tired after calling for the rest of the week. Pretty much I call 2 days a week and I rest the other 5 days, and it seems to go pretty good, and everything's coming together nicely, so I'm doing okay, doing good.
I know you're a big supporter of our radio station, along with Munising Mustang football and athletics. As we're doing this interview, I know you're keeping up with your friends via social media and on Facebook. How often are you talking to people, making contact with people, and staying in touch with your friends on the outside world?
Constantly, especially the last year trying to put the event together. I've been writing a lot of messages to a lot of people, business owners, friends, and relatives, anybody who might be able to assist me in my fundraising endeavors, and so I do a lot of typing that way, and it's my only source of talking to friends and family, so I'm on it constantly. That's I'm not really a big Facebooker, but I use Messenger daily to keep in contact with the outside world.
Pete, with this fundraiser taking place at the American Legion between 4 and 8 tomorrow, in the past there's been fantastic food. I've attended this a couple of times, so I know how good the food is. What's some of the things people are going to be able to enjoy on as they look at these raffle ticket items?
Well, Sam Corp, formerly of the Fish Basket here in Munising, will be the guy responsible for putting on the fish dinner, fresh cut French fries, and desserts donated by Taco Trino here in Munising will be served. Fresh out of the fryer, and there'll also be some pulled pork put on by Brad Herman. He made enough to feed 200 for that, so there's deep fried light fish, light trout, fresh cut French fries, and dessert for $10, or you can get pulled pork, French fries, and the desserts for $10, or there might also be some beef brisket. So just come down, order whatever you want. You can mix and match or choose whatever you want out of those choices, and it's all for $10. So yeah, you won't be disappointed with the meal. It'll be really good.
It's the Pete Heyrman Scholarship Fundraiser tomorrow, Saturday, at the American Legion between 4 and 8 o'clock. Pete, as always, it's a pleasure when we can sit down and have a conversation with you, and we hope there's a huge turnout for this event.
Thanks. I appreciate the support from you guys at the radio station, and I appreciate you coming out today, so thanks a lot.
And Pete, to quote the great Charlie Nebel, as always, go Mustangs. We'll take this quick time out, come back and talk more on Coffee with Casey right after this. You're listening to Coffee with Casey on AM 1400, 97.7 WQXO, also SoundCloud, Spotify, and live on the Rome Media Facebook page.
Wondering where you can find gently used name brand clothing? Stop by Community Threads in downtown Munising. Choose from brands like Nike, North Face, Express, Patagonia, and more for $15 or less. Brought to you by the Rome Community Foundation, a 501c nonprofit serving the community through arts, culture, music, and adventure. And remember, it doesn't have to be new to be awesome.
Community Threads, now open Wednesday through Saturday, 11 to 4.
When it's time for you to tackle a home project, you go to 41 Lumber, because you know 41 Lumber has the best products, so your projects will last. Every kind of home project, you name it, 41 Lumber has it. And 41 Lumber has the experience to help you with any questions you have along the way. 41 Lumber even offers complete home and project design services. Your projects start at 41 Lumber, with better products for better results. 41 Lumber, building your dreams one project at a time.
Hunting season is upon us, so stock up at your local party store before heading to camp. Both Hillside West and Hillside East carry hunting bait, a large variety of snacks, and ice-cold beer caves with all the bush light you'll need this hunting season. From now until opening day, you can register for our Rapid River Knife Works fall giveaway at either location. Head over to Hillside West or Hillside East and enjoy our seasonal sales and great savings, and get yourself registered to win a custom handcrafted knife from Rapid River Knife Works while you're there.
As things slowly get back to normal in the Upper Peninsula, the employees at Embers Credit Union are here, ready to serve you. Our frontline staff is ready to safely handle cash and checks and answer questions you have about your account. Our loan team is ready to help out with new or existing loans in person, on the phone, or through email. Our commercial team is ready to assist you with your business loan and the Payment Protection Program. We are always ready to take members to the next level. We're Embers Credit Union. Let's live it up.
Picture this, coming home after a long day of work to a professionally laid, personalized tile shower with rainfall shower heads. Does this sound like something you could get used to? Flynn's Flooring in Wetmore carries much more than the beautiful flooring you've come to expect from this family-owned and operated company. A full-service company that specializes in ceramic tile as well as other floor coverings. The team at Flynn's Flooring is waiting for you to stop in to their showroom in Wetmore or call 906-387-1993.
Back here, final segment, Coffee with Casey, AM 1400, 97.7 WQXO. Casey Ford now joined by Bryce Burge as we sit here and talk about things that are happening in and around the area. And Bryce is really interested in the conversation I was having with myself in the first segment. But you can see the TV6 Canathon cans here. Please bring those in to Gallery Coffee Company between the hours of 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. And we'll start putting more cans up here on our shelves. And we'd like to get this whole desk and his desk or even behind us get stacked up so we can see it on air and deliver this and have TV6, have Elgin County deliver for TV6 when they come and pick it up sometime between November 28th and December 1st, I believe. But Bryce joins us right here on Coffee with Casey. Final 5 minutes of the show. And we were just looking at some of the things. And there's huge playoff implications when it comes to 11-man football, when it comes to the Upper Peninsula. We talked about Negaunee and Westwood tonight. Matt even talked about Negaunee, Westwood tonight. That one is the big game in 11-man football for most of the area. But Marquette also. Marquette, and when it comes to like mapatology right now, and we talked about this with Munising. Munising wins, they should win the conference or at least get a tie of the conference with Pickford. Pickford and Rudyard must win for Rudyard. If Rudyard wants to make the playoffs, they have to win. The reason Munising has to win is because if they lose, they're going to lose a ton of points. They just will. Yep. But Marquette, and we know there's a lot of people in Marquette that watch and listen to the show. Right now, as we stand today, they are projected to take on undefeated Mount Pleasant in week 1. And that is the big problem when it comes to Marquette, because Marquette is a Division III school. That means if they win that game, they could get DeWitt, they could get Lowell very next round. Like, I'm familiar with Lowell. I'm familiar with East Grand Rapids, like the Granville, Jenison, like the big schools. If Marquette wins and everything stays flat when it comes to Division III, Marquette would take on Mount Pleasant. And we just don't see a lot of the downstate teams. We just don't. I mean, I know Marquette saw Traverse City a couple times, Central and West this year, but you don't get to see the Mount Pleasants, the Lowells, the East Grand Rapids, things like that. And I think that's a real big disadvantage when it comes to playoff football. The other advantage is they also don't scout you because you don't know if you're going to play them or not. I look at Division 8. And when we talked about Division 8, Pickford, Rudyard, must win for Rudyard. Superior Central has a big game tonight for a chance to go 5-4 and a winning season for the first time in a couple of years. And they take on their arch rival, the Rapid River Rockets. You know a little bit more about this game.
All right, so as we switch up to that style point right now, I'm going to try to hurry up and click all the links to get me to the actual Rapid River listing of this all. Rapid River has one win this year.
Yes.
And then they have another forfeit win where Stevenson ends up forfeiting to them. They beat Carney-Nadeau 55-6 in Rapid River, but they lost last week 76-18 at home.
Yeah.
Not
the typical Rapid River Rocket team.
Right. They don't have a lot. They're having problems with their line and sustaining the ability to have any resemblance of a pocket. They're a lot better when they shift over more towards the run game. Because they can kind of push it left and right and use the sweeps a little bit more. But ultimately, Rapid River is struggling. And I think already right now, people are thinking that this is going to be a win for Superior Central, because Superior Central this year, they're 4-4 right now. They had negative yards in their first game against Rudyard, which was a big one. Cedarville, they lose Ben Molag and Kulik as well. Kulik's in quarantine. Molag's had some injury things on and off this whole time. So honestly, in a heads-up game where they're up against Cedarville to tour again, honestly, you got to think that they're going to win. But they got that win against Pickford because Pickford got COVID. So it all balanced each other out. They lose to Newberry and Munising, what you kind of thought was going to happen. And they won against Brimley last week because of forfeit due to COVID. But honestly, I don't think anybody would have thought that Brimley would have held a candle to them this year. So even with the forfeits, this is a team that's looking for a win because they've only had 2 wins this year. And that didn't have the COVID implication. And I do think, at least one of them would have been one, but you want to end it on the right season because on the right foot, because even if you have those 2 wins by forfeit, you want to make sure that you have that stability moving forward and you feel comfortable as a program, especially as, like the Frusty brothers are rotating through, and you'll get another Frusty at quarterback next year, most likely. It's going to create some different opportunities.
That would be like, 6 straight years of Frusty at quarterback? Pretty close.
5 for sure.
Right.
But it's tough because Kyle kept getting injured.
Right.
So I don't know if you can count any of those as a full year.
Well, one of the other games I want to talk about, and Jeff Hansen's a big fan of our show and what we've done with the Prep Pigskin High School football show when that was on. Gladstone right now taking on Sault Ste. Marie. That is a 5-3 versus 4-4 football team. Mapatology on this: Gladstone would take on Menominee in the first round of the playoffs as long as Gladstone wins. Calumet Negaunee, assuming those 2 teams win tonight. So Negaunee Westwood will change that district. Also, Gladstone Sault Ste. Marie will also change that district. So what you're seeing projections now will not be the same come Sunday. Lots of big playoff football tonight, and it feels like playoff football. And that's what I love about this season. It feels like playoff football. You see that the end is near and everything matters now.
Yeah, and Gladstone's had just absolutely terrible luck with injuries this year. And if you can make sure that Braves team is still pushing hard, their losses are all good losses, including a 31-30 loss to Negaunee a couple weeks ago. So with Sault Ste. Marie, you really don't know what they're going to bring to the table week to week.
We know they're hard hitting.
They hit hard, but also at the exact same time, they are really inconsistent with their passing game. Yeah, like it depends. I mean, basically, the big metric for Sault Ste. Marie is whether they have more drops or catches. Because if they have more drops, they're losing. If they have more catches, they're winning. And that's unfortunate to talk about when you're at a high school level, because you're always looking at developing players. But at the exact same time, it's a tough break when that's the metric that you can look at.
Quickly, I know that you plan on at least attending at this point the Superior Central Rapid River game, but you're also going to go to cross country tomorrow.
Yeah, state championships are tomorrow. All 3 divisions will be at Gentz's golf course in Chocolate Township. What this is really big here for the local teams, because Munising is projected to repeat as state champs. There's no way to talk about this as long as everybody finishes the finish line. I can't see the girls team not repeating as champs. You've got Hadikota's back healthy. You've got Sabrina Smith, who's really developed as a runner this year. Jenna Matson, that all-star athlete, has been nothing but reliable, whatever playing surface she's on. And then you've got some of the players right now that are starting to grow just a little bit more. And they're coming up, and that depth is really key on the girls' side. And then Trevor Nolan, we don't know what's going to happen with him, because Trevor Nolan has been so dominant. He won the Skyline Central championships by over a minute over his teammate. That injury to Kane Nebel, a lot of people did not talk about what that meant to lose a potential medalist at the state championship level in the Division III sighting. It's absolutely heartbreaking, because you could have had the chance to win on both boys and girls side, but I don't think there's going to be enough runners on the boys side to try to compete for a team title. But Trevor Nolan, Kaylin Moulier, these are 2 runners that we're looking to not only win but medal as a group.
For Bryce Burge, I'd like to thank Matt Zika for coming on the show today from the National Weather Service, and Pete Heyrman. Once again, the Pete Heyrman Scholarship fundraiser tomorrow at the American Legion between 4 and 8. 4 and 8 on Saturday for anybody that's listening to this replay. I'd like to thank you for watching and listening to Coffee with Casey, AM 1400, 97.7 WQXO, Munising.